Okay.
Okay, so visual techniques is something that, it's kind of good in a short answer section because it's shorter. It's not like reading a whole text. But what we're going to break down today is, what are you looking for when you see those short answer texts? And how do you answer the questions for them? So this is one of the ones that, can feel a little bit overwhelming from the New Yorker. So Lily's going to break that down for us and give you some idea of how you would approach answering that question.
Okay, great. All right. So yeah, as Carla said, this is a picture that a lot of students come across. It was a past HSC one at some point, and a lot of students have felt really overwhelmed in just not being able to find techniques for it. So first of all, when we get a picture like this, we always want to read the question first. So I'm going to show you guys the question. So this question was, how does this image convey ideas surrounding diversity in the human experience? So the first thing that you want to do is break down the word diversity, because that's probably a word that you know what it means, but you might just need to come up with some synonyms to help jog your memory. So some words that might come up would be differences, maybe multicultural, just like people's different experiences in life. So that's going to help you to like guide what you're looking for in the question. So looking at this picture, you're going to want to identify how people are diverse. So what's the differences between all the different people? A lot of my students have been able to pick up on this quite quickly. Like we've got some people down the bottom practicing yoga compared to a group of Spanish dancers here. We also have a family having a large barbecue here, opposed to children up the top just playing, a guy being angry about, the smoke coming from here. We've got older people watching a baseball game on television here compared to younger people playing video games. So first of all, the first thing that you want to ask yourself is, what is actually making these people diverse? Like, what are the different factors that make these people have different experiences? So some things that might come to mind are culture, because again, with diversity, we think about multiculturalism. Another one might be age. So you already have a way to approach this question. So you're already going to answer that people have diverse experiences in life due to factors such as being multicultural and also age. That's going to affect people and have different experiences in life, regardless of the fact that they even live in the same place, which is something that you could talk about as well. But what I found for a lot of students is that in looking at this, they've just really struggled to find techniques that help them to justify that answer. Like they can point to places in the picture that show the differences, but actually breaking that down and discussing it has proved tricky. So one of the first things that I would say is find two images that are vastly different. So for example, here we've got the bottom two images, which is different, and identify what's caused the difference. As we talked about before, I think culture would be prominent here. So you want to have a look at that there and go, okay, so there's culture that's different. And think about it.
How do we know that culture is different?
Yeah, so we can see here that like the Spanish dancers here, that's a very distinct culture compared to down here. We've got hints of like an East Asian culture. For example, we've got the Buddhist decor here and the yoga mats. So that would easily tell us that that's culture. So that's a good thing to look at. So a good way to identify that as a technique is that you've got two opposites next to each other here. So easily there, that already leads you to think about contrast and juxtaposition, which are techniques that we don't always associate with visual images. We often associate them with writing, but they're very prominent in visual text and an easy one to identify. So that's an easy one. Another one here that we can talk about is framing. So all of these are framed in really distinct ways, directly opposite each other. So we also have positioning and the framing that just makes those diverse experiences really prominent. We also have the framing of the whole building, which is something that we can look at, which kind of links all of these people, that the fact that they live different lives, they're all joined by the fact that they live in the same place, which is a bit paradoxical or a bit ironic, or just an interesting thing that you could note and talk about. So framing is one to remember there. Finally, we have another one like that people often forget, which is vector lines. So we can see that despite the diverse experiences that everyone is living in their own little compartments and apartments, they're actually impacting each other's lives, which is something that you can talk about. So we have the smoke is a really easy vector line drawing us from one balcony to the next, which shows us that the actions in one is directly affecting ones up here. We also have the same thing with the water here that's trickling down there. So that's an easy technique that you can discuss. So those are just some ones that you can think about. So juxtaposition, contrast, vector lines, framing, and also, again, symbolism is often one that you can just use as an easy one. So the symbolism of the smoke, if you couldn't remember vector lines, or the symbolism of the Spanish dances is just a good go-to if you're really struggling to find a technique. So yeah.
And also with the Spanish dances, it's just even like clothing, right? So and that's how we know that they are, you've got the guy with the guitar, you've got the clothing of the dancers versus the, as you said, the yoga mats, the Buddha, the, even, their attire there. Perfect. And so if we go down, do we have a practice response for that one, or can we do that in the next video?
Do we have a practice example paragraph?
Yeah.
Probably I would have to find one.
All right, perfect. So that's TBC.
Yes, to be continued. Yeah.